couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to spend a few nights aboard a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. And I got a front row seat to the most remarkable display of teamwork and technology and skill that I've ever seen. So when we discussed the stories that we wanted to tell on this season of How America Works, I said, whatever else we do, let's make sure we get our cameras aboard a Nimitz-class, nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. The story will shoot itself. Well, we did. And while the story didn't exactly shoot itself, the footage does tell an undeniable tale of excellence. Tonight, you're going to meet a few of the 6,000 Americans living and working together aboard the USS George H.W. Bush, one of the most fearsome warships ever constructed. And you'll be struck, I think, like I was, not only by the unbelievably sophisticated weaponry aboard, but by how young so many of these sailors and airmen are, and by how much responsibility they've been given. The USS George H.W. Bush is not just a $6 billion floating city armed to the teeth with the most sophisticated weaponry on the planet. It's also a microcosm of what makes our country great. It's a melting pot and a meritocracy where highly trained sailors and airmen from all walks of life prove that service and sacrifice are still at the heart of how America works. Born in the American Revolution and fine-tuned over 2.5 centuries of combat, the United States Navy is a military powerhouse all its own. In fact, it is the most formidable maritime force on the planet, capable of winning wars, fending off foreign invasion, and safeguarding freedom on the high seas. How do they do it? Well, 700,000 men and women is a good start. Then add to that 68 submarines, 92 cruisers and destroyers, and, among other things, nearly 4,000 aircraft. And yeah, you got a war machine like no other country out there. But perhaps the greatest symbol of America's naval might is this vessel, the USS George H.W. Bush, one of 11 massive aircraft carriers that patrol coastlines and oceans across the globe. Here, it takes a crew of nearly 6,000 working in perfect unison to keep the ship barreling forward and battle ready, which these days, what with all the invasion going on overseas, is pretty critical to ensuring the same never happens to us. And the key to that is training. That's why, on this, the 100th anniversary of carrier operations, we find them here, somewhere off the coast of North Carolina, conducting exercises that are critical to the entire crew's success, from flight control right down to the engine room, and perhaps most especially the 30 aviators that have come to qualify for active deployment. But before they do, they'll have to meet the exacting standards of this man, Landing Signal Officer, or LSO, Andy Jalali.
We're responsible for the safe and efficient recovery of all fixed-wing aircraft on the aircraft carrier.
Like most days, Andy will be spending his on the ship's 1,000-foot flight deck, where he'll observe and grade about 150 landings, also known as recoveries, per day. But before all that starts, he must first inspect the runways for telltale signs of less than perfect landings.
I'll actually come out over here and look for witness marks, right? So if we have a low aircraft coming over the round down for whatever reason, I want to be able to figure out exactly where that hook point touched down. So I'll kind of I'll survey the area, walk around. Here we got one right here.
Noting the touchdown points of previous landings helps Andy to pinpoint future ones that happen to be a little dicey. That way, he'll know exactly how far off his pilot was.
If, hopefully we don't, but if we have one of those instances, we can take note of it, figure out exactly where they touched down, and debrief accordingly. And I just kind of look around, right? We see tire marks, right? This one was pretty far aft right here. If you see anything back here, it means that they're very low.
And why can landings like these be better? Well, on a ship like this one, there are 3 cables sprawled across the runway, each designed to catch and slow aircraft before they run out of flight deck. Catch the first one, and you touch down a little early. catch the third one, and you're running a little late. So, in a perfect world, Andy's looking for his pilots to hit a sweet spot, about 50 feet long.
This one is, gosh, probably 20 feet from the back of the ship. And as we move further back, hopefully they become more and more sparse. But we still look,
And since the last 10 feet or so look clear, Andy can now gear up for a day of qualifying pilots.
So I'm gonna head to the LSO platform, make sure everything's ready, and we're gonna grab the other LSOs from the squadron, bring them on up, watch the airplanes come overhead, and catch them, and qual them.
Andy's not the only one with some pre-flight checks to conduct. There are also the 2,000 or so other crew in charge of making sure that these pilots take off and land without incident. And some of the most critical of them look after those aforementioned arresting cables. The things that keep landing jets from careening into the Atlantic. Yeah, that's a pretty big priority here. And the man in charge of making sure that doesn't happen is aviation bosun's mate, Nicholas Wilton.
When an aircraft comes in at about 120 miles an hour and weighing 51,000 pounds, they put a lot of stress on the cables.
To ensure that those cables do not succumb to all that wear and tear and function precisely as they should, Nicholas checks each of them on a regular basis.
We're just visually inspecting the cable to make sure that there's no broken wires or bird caging. And bird caging, all it is if you have a cable tight and then untighten it and it flares out like a bird cage.
Once flight operations commence, cables like this one will catch a jet every 60 seconds. So, it's especially important to make sure they're all up to spec while there's still time to make adjustments.
So while we're walking the cable, I can tell this cable's a little low. My boot doesn't fit under it. That's about 2 inches right there. Tailhook would just skip over this. I'll tell my topside PO to go ahead and raise it, tighten the cable through the engine by retracting. So I go ahead and do our last one. Good to go. Make sure our pin's flush here. All right, we're good to go. We can take traps on this wire.
Flight training operations are among the highest priorities for this underway period, but they're not the only ones. That's because the USS George H.W. Bush is slated for active deployment soon. And before that happens, it'll need to take on a couple million pounds of munitions. So, as another training opportunity, they're going to get that out of the way now with a carefully choreographed ship-to-ship exchange. And heading that up will be bosun's mate, second class, Jason Wyatt.
We'll literally be hooking up a wire from ship to ship and bringing over ammunition, live ammunition. I'll always get nervous, always.
If that's not enough to be nervous about, there's also the fact that neither of these ships will be stopping for the ammo onload. Instead, they'll do the whole thing at 15 miles an hour.
We're getting close. Everybody needs to get ready on station, and we're going to start this evolution.
Onloading on the move like this allows the ship to maintain tactical maneuverability, the kind of edge that can ultimately win wars. Lucky for us, nobody is better at that than the good old US of A.
This is actually uniquely American because we actually invented this process. So we are the best at this process. So right now we're making our approach. We're about 200 feet from the other ship. She's less than a football field away. Our master helmsmen are the ones that are gonna keep us on course. So we stay in our track, they stay in their track, and we can get this evolution done. It's getting close to showtime.
With the ships in place, the first step of the onload will be firing a line to connect the two vessels.
Thing on the end is called a bolo. It's a weighted bullet, if you will, and it gets the shot line over. You ready? Let's go, guns. Oh, let's go again. Go.
But hitting the broadside of a cargo ship is not as easy as it sounds, especially when you're firing into a 20-mile-an-hour gale.
It's a wind tunnel, so this is blowing the bolo back. Yeah, missed again. Shoot until we make it.